Hello, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And let's talk about a few things. I'll begin with something very simple. And as always, I'll try to over summarize because I do feel that, you know, explaining things in great detail doesn't actually help much. It's not very productive. One can always do one's own research. It's always better that when you've listened to somebody summarize on something, reach to a conclusion, giving you just the bare details, then it's always better, especially as a responsible human being and as a responsible Muslim. It is your duty, it is incumbent upon you to go and do the necessary research in order to see if you need to challenge what the other person is saying to you, or if you need to find out in greater detail why the person is saying what he's saying and how he's come to that conclusion. Okay? So, because as I said, this is basically a podcast. This is not something that I'm doing to teach people anything, but I do like to keep it informative as much as I can. Though today we are actually going to try to talk about zakat, about charity, about taxes, and all. And I am doing a lot of research, despite the fact that we all know the basics, right? But the biggest problems that we have, the controversy here, is taxes and levies, and the halal haram part of it, right? And then especially on zakat and all. So because Ramzan is coming, it's pretty much right here, really. Next month, isn't it? So, while Ramzan is literally at our doorstep, many people are now going to get their assets in order. They're going to get their calculators out, they're going to get their zakat calculation done, and they've started already giving out zakats and everything. So, we're going to discuss a little bit on that and on taxes and everything, and on levies. But here's a short. Let's just begin with something that is also very important before that. Just as a bit of a side note, but putting it right more on the forefront, more like a front note. Especially since now I've got these office people who are a bit too active today, my neighbors who are office, and as you know, technically it's even illegal to have an office at a residential area, but okay. Today they're making a lot of noise. I actually picked a silent moment to start the podcast, but here you go. They've again started talking at the background. Usually they're very silent, but today I don't know why they're a bit too active. Maybe because their renovation is going on full swing, or more like their interior work is going on full swing after the renovation. Anywho, right. So first, let's talk about that footnote, side note, front note, preface, whatever you like to call it. And that is that there are a lot of deaths. I doubt we have had a lot of deaths even during COVID as much as we're having. Sorry, got interrupted by a long distance call. And where was I? I was talking about deaths, yeah. So we are having a lot of young deaths recently, especially these past 2 years. Girls, boys, young men, young women just dying. Um, the Muslim in me, or even the person in me, to be honest, because the kind of person that I am, I do believe that if you believe in a concept, you either believe it properly or you don't. And if we are made to believe in the concept that there is a life after death and that this life is temporary and it's of no consequence or importance, and at the end of the day, it's the next life, which is our actual life, which was our previous life that we have to go back to, that this is where we have to, that is our real place. And this is just a dream world, you can say, where we're basically brought down to be effed by God. But anyway, in the name of tests and exams, he's basically just, you know, passing time, playing with us, toying with us. We are stuck in a game where the Helens of Troy in a game played between two players, of which we know no rules, no laws. We're basically mostly at least 80% in the dark, and only a good 20% is given to us. And the rules that we need to follow without knowing what's actually behind them. And we have no say, we did not volunteer to be part of this game. We were thrown in to this game without our consent, and Yet we're going to pay for everything. Yeah, we're going to pay for the consequences of everything that goes wrong in this game because we are the players. It doesn't matter that we do not willingly enter this game. It doesn't matter that we are not willingly a part of this game. We've been forced into this game without rhyme or reason, without knowledge, without anything. And we have to suffer both in this game and when we go back to where we came from. We have to continue suffering the consequences of whatever it is that we did in this game, right? So, in that case, I would say that those are the luckiest people who got out of this game at a young age. I think, and I really do think, and I really believe in this, okay? Again, as I said, since I know that this world is not infinite, this world is not eternal, this world is temporary. This is not our real world, this is not our real life. We have to go back. Why am I forced to stay here? Number one, against my will, by the way. And why do I have to put up with all of this BS? Okay, because God is too bored, he has too much time on his hands and he wants to just play. Okay, fine. But again, I think I actually see this is the only place where I actually see God's mercy. I do not see his mercy anywhere else in the world. In fact, if anything, I understand why priests and why religious scholars that do suddenly go against God, why they go, because the despair, although God says to despair is sin, but let us remember that even the prophets have despaired at one point in their lives. But see, they had something to bring them out of their despair. They had a direct communication with God. God brought miracles to them. God did miracles for them. God showed them that, look, here's an outlet. But for people like us, there is no outlet. There are no miracles. There is no change. Look at the vast majority of the people in this world. We are all suffering for no reason. Look at Palestine, look at Kashmir, look at Sudan, look at parts of Africa where they are living under conditions of famine. Why even? Why are people living in famine in a world that is filled with food, by the way? I can never get over that. I don't give a shit what logic you give me. And here I was trying not to curse today because we're going to talk about taxes in Islam. But okay, anyway. So, as I'm saying, here we are. I don't give a hoot, okay, about whatever reason it is that you will try to calculate and manipulate. The point is, famine is not natural. The ongoing famine in any part of the world is not natural. Just like how the ongoing inflation is not natural. As you know, this is man made, this is manipulated, this is exploited for gain. You know, a certain class of people, certain psychopaths that are running this world who think that they're God and were openly challenging God. And you know, amusingly, God is very happy to meet their challenge. But he doesn't give a hoot either for the rest of us who are living in sufferance for no reason at all because of these psychopaths, for example. Let's just put it under the umbrella, okay, that because of these psychopaths, we're all suffering, right? And God is too busy engaging in his games with them to even bother about us. I know that that's not true. I know that in the divine aspect of it all, he is testing us. But again, even he has admitted it in certain places in the Quran, where he has said that, yes, there are times when I will have tested you more than you can be compensated for. And what I'll do is I'll erase your memories. There are certain sufferings that cannot be compensated. So I'll just erase them from your memories, as if that's going to make us feel better. But okay, fine, because we're going to end up being puppets at the end, because we'll be terrified by the by the hellfire and by all the 7 different parts of hell. And I get it. I really get it, and I'm not defying it. I'm not defying anything, mind you. I'm just putting another. I'm just kind of trying to give you the perspective of what people can and will most likely, obviously, arrive to this conclusion and for the reasons behind it, okay? Point being, we are helpless both in this world and in the next. That's what I'm trying to say. At the end, we're helpless here. We're living in hell here, only to go up there to find out we're still going to be in hell anyway. You know, let's face it. You can talk about God's mercy all you want, but we'll still end up in hell. Why? Number one, transgressions against God can be forgiven. Transgressions against each other, that can only be forgiven if we forgive each other. And I'm sorry, but I choose not to forgive. And many of us will choose not to forgive because God promises us justice. He promises us compensation. If we're going to forgive people, how is that going to give us justice? Okay, I have arrived at this conclusion after spending my whole life forgiving people. I have arrived at this conclusion that nobody's worth forgiving at the end of the day, because if I'm enduring so much in my life, for example, if we, the majority people, are enduring so much beyond our capacity in life, then we must get justice for it. After all, if we're enduring abuses, for example, or if we're enduring violence, for example, or if we're enduring oppression and aggression, occupation, and if we're enduring people controlling us and controlling our lives and controlling what we eat and controlling how we live and, dictating our lives to us, which is not even allowed in Islam. So if we are enduring all of these things, which are supposed to be sins against us in Islam or crimes against us in Islam, then why are we going to forgive those people? Even God doesn't dictate us to forgive them, by the way. So why did we suddenly come up with this idea that no, we have to forgive them? Believe me, whether we forgive them or not, we are going to get compensated anyway. But here's the difference. If we forgive them, we're going to get compensated. But if we don't forgive them, we're still going to get compensated, but they're also going to get punished. And again, why wouldn't I want to see them get punished? I need to see them pay because I am paying for something I haven't even done. Why shouldn't they pay for something they've done? Okay, again, as I say, this is the Muslim in me who has read the Quran properly, who has read all the hadiths, and who has arrived at this conclusion that at the end, God brings justice as number one and he brings mercy as number two. Even when he talks about punishment and when he talks about criminal code, when he talks about penalties, when he talks about civil code, when he talks about business law, when he talks about ethics, even if you look at Sharia, if you look at all the legal codes that have been placed in the Quran, it's always justice first and then mercy. For example, theft, cut off their hand. But if they repent, you can show them mercy. You see where it's going? It means first seek justice. But if they prove themselves that they should be forgiven, if they prove that yes, they should be forgiven, then okay, don't cut off their hand, show mercy instead. But your first thing, put them on trial, try to seek justice. You see, if somebody does you harm, first you have the right to seek justice. But if you arrive at a conclusion where you feel that okay, it's okay, you can forgive him, fine, you're welcome to do so. But nobody can force you to forgive that person. It is your inherent right to seek justice. So understand what I'm trying to say and don't try to arrive at your own conclusions. Understand the context with which I'm saying this. Okay? Then you'll have a better understanding of what God is all about or what he promises to be all about. So again, he says that he is ever merciful and he is ever gracious. But at the same time, he says, I will not forgive you your transgressions against others unless they forgive you. And others are not God. Others are people just like you. They have emotions. They have a short, limited lifespan in which they've had to tolerate you, and they've had to tolerate a lot of injustices. And when the injustices are recurring and you don't get justice throughout your life for all the injustices that keep accumulating, which is the norm of today's life, by the way. If you look at the whole world, this is the norm of today's life on a global level. Then pray tell, why the frack do we need to forgive everybody? No. We don't need to. It's our generosity if we choose to, but we're not obliged to. And nor are we forced to, and nor are we expected to, by the way. We are not expected to either. So get that out of your minds for once. Now let's go to deaths again, right? This is why I think it is inherently a blessing to those of us who manage to leave this world at an early stage. Believe me, the longer we live in this world, the more prone we are to not earn a good hereafter. Let's just be very honest. We are people, as I said. It is impossible for us to live our lives without hurting others, without causing harm to others at one point or another. Even if it is in defense, for example, if people are constantly screwing with you and you finally just stand up to them, and then in your defense, you might start cursing them, abusing them, you might even push them legally to their limits, you might actually cross your limit while trying to seek justice or to seek revenge or to answer them or to reply to them or to respond to them or whatever, right? So at the end of the day, one way or the other, you can also end up hurting or harming other people. Or you might end up saying that, okay, frack it, screw it. Everybody here is like this. I'm going to be like this too. You might decide to shed all your good principles in life. You might decide to shed being a good person. And you will decide to just follow everybody else because that's the only way one can live life in peace nowadays. As a good person, you definitely cannot live life in peace. But if you become a bad person, if you do everything that everybody else is doing, then yes, you can control the situation. This is a fact. This is a fact. So, the longer we live, the more prone we are to making choices that can hurt our hereafter, right? So, I really do. This is the only thing that gives me hope in God. As I said, otherwise, I have no hope in God as to His mercy in this world. The only thing that shows His mercy to me from where I stand is when He takes away young people. Because this world has nothing to offer our generation anyway. Let's be honest. Our parents' generation has literally raped this world. Again, on a global level. That generation has literally raped this world. They have taken more than their fair share of fruits. They have taken more than their fair share of rewards. They are the ones that caused corruption in this world. And they have left not just us, but the next two coming generations with nothing but the worst kind of life, from the air quality to the food quality to the life quality to health to anything, and they have deprived us of everything, every single thing that they themselves enjoyed. And because they enjoyed in a very haram way, totally speaking, it amounts to haram, because when you're taking what actually belongs to the next generation and the next generation, when you're partaking of their shares, when you're just raking up everything more than you need, to me this is also haram. And so you've ended up you've squandered the next two generations just like that. You've made their lives hell before they could even be born. So we're living in misery. The next two generations are going to have absolutely nothing, really nothing. So I think we are blessed to be taken out of this world, because again, as I said, the longer you live, the worse it can get. Okay, not just on this level, but on a spiritual level, again, on a religious level, on a moral level, in every way possible that I can think. The longer you live, the worse it is, even your quality of life. Better to live a good short life than to drag on to live a long disastrous life, or a long unhealthy life. I mean, look at the older people in Japan. Or look at how as I said, young people are dying mostly all over. And now Pakistan is also seeing its fair share of young people dying. So you will be left with old people And what are they, I mean, what are they supposed to do here? You have old people in Japan, you have old people left in Italy, in Germany, in Pakistan soon. I'm hoping that will be the case. The reason I'm saying I'm hoping is I really, really want for the young people to get rid of this godforsaken world, to go back quickly to where they came from. I want myself to go back to where I came from, because I am actually more than aware of the responsibilities in this world, the liabilities in this world, the problems, the disasters, the catastrophes pertaining to my next life, you know, with regards to this world. So, yes, I would be the most blessed person on earth if I were removed from this equation as quickly as possible, because my accountability in the next world would be lighter. My sentencing would be lighter. My problems would be lesser in the next world. And the next world is more important to me than this, because that is forever, you see. Here, you die, finished. There, you don't die. Forever. Forever. Imagine living in agony forever. Why? Just because you made some disastrous mistakes or lived a disastrous life, or I mean, you know what I mean when I'm saying disastrous, because it's disastrous with regards to the next life. Okay, so just understand what I'm trying to say here. What I'm trying to say here is we are truly blessed. We know that actually God likes us if he makes us sleep. You know that old line that used to say that God loved him too much and that's why he decided to bring him. That is actually true. Believe it or not, that is not a myth, that is not a superstition, that is actually true. You know that God has absolute mercy on you if he cannot bear to let you live in this world for longer than you have, and he has decided to remove you from the equation. You are blessed. Okay? You will realize it when you're removed from the equation. Right now, you may think, oh, wow, oh no. No. Again, if we have established the fact that this world is not it, and if we have established that this world is not important, we have established that this world is basically a test, it is a never ending exam, we need to get out of this exam. We need to get out of this hall. We need to get out of this center ASAP. Because the more tests, the more tendencies to fail, the more the stress, the more the agony, the more the depression, the more the problems, And as God said, there are some people he has decided not to test at all. There are those lucky ass people who don't get tested at all in this world. But you know what? It doesn't mean that they're in loss. Yeah, he says that, if they see the rewards that those who are tested are getting in the next life, they would wish that they would have been torn to pieces and cut to. Yeah, sorry, I don't wish that. I've already been torn and cut enough. I do not wish that. And I'm sure that even though they may have wished, they would definitely wish, because everybody wants rewards, right? Everybody, whether they've worked for it or not, right? But believe me, I think those people are also very, very blessed who have had no tests whatsoever in this world, because it means they have automatically passed. Because they're going to the next world, fine, they're not getting rewards for being cut up and torn, but they have had a good life here, and they're going to have a very easy hereafter up there too. If they're not getting rewards, they're not getting those punishments either, if you know what I mean. You know, they're not. They're not getting compensations, fine, but if they have lived their lives well, where they've not been tested to show the worst side of themselves, then it's easy breezy there too. Good for them, right? So, point being, as Muslims, or as people who know the reality of this world, I don't see why it's so important for us to strive to live longer in this world. That's all I'm saying, okay? I think kudos to those of us who will actually get blessed to live short but good lives. Or I always believe that if you want to curse somebody, ask for a long life for that person. Because as I said, the longer it is, the more the chances are that you can screw it. You can obviously, the longer you live, the more the chances of you making mistakes, the more the chances of you going, haywire, the more the chances of things going bad, the more the chances of you accumulating more and more things that can add to your punishment value. But always, I like it short and sweet. That there's a reason why we say make it short and sweet. Don't drag it on. Life, similarly to me, should be short and sweet. Good quality life, especially health wise. I'm especially maintaining here health wise as well, not just moral value wise or as a Muslim or as a person who's to go for a good hereafter. But even here, good quality life, short and sweet. And then goodbye, farewell, adieu, monsieur. You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm saying. Okay. And how I've already gone 25 minutes now. And we have to make a very longer podcast than it means for the when it comes to jizya and when it comes to tax and when it comes to zakat and all. So consider this part one, even though I've hardly even mentioned, the beginning of tax. But okay, let's just start with tax. Now, here the problem here that comes is tax problems in countries, Muslim and non-Muslim. Forget the non-Muslim because, as the Quran also says and the Hadith also say, you are supposed to abide by the rules and the laws of the land in which you live. Okay, as long as those laws do not force you to commit a sin that goes against Sharia, that goes against Islam. Okay, perfect. We've summarized that. Now, so it means if you're living in a non-Muslim country where taxes are applied, that you normally wouldn't see that are supposed to be applied strictly in Islamic law per se, and then you would say, okay, you still need to pay those taxes. Okay, no discussions, no arguments there. Case closed. But Muslim countries, the problems that we have with Muslim countries is when they take those Western countries' tax laws and then they multiply them and then they add levies and duties and all and they just stick it to your face for every single thing that you buy. This is where the controversy arises. Okay, zakat is essentially tax, by the way. As per Islamic law, zakat is that annual tax that you pay, that your government must distribute amongst the needy, amongst those that, in other words, this is again, as I say, that the Western community, the Western countries, the Western world has based all their laws on the Islamic legal infrastructure. One of those is this. They don't call it zakat, but they've termed it tax. And they're like, okay, you pay the tax, and out of your taxes, we're helping the unemployed, we're helping the homeless, we're giving benefits. And even when you later on lose a job or you're jobless, then, you can claim benefits. So you see, that is essentially the spirit of zakat that is taken from the spirit of zakat. That is zakat. Okay, so zakat is all about you paying an annual tax to the government, in which the government is obligated to then provide benefits to those classes of people in your society who cannot afford the essentials that you are already able to afford. Okay, so that means they have to be able to provide homes for the homeless, they have to be able to provide benefits for the jobless, they have to be able to provide food expenses and everything. That is zakat. But now suddenly all the Muslim scholars and the ulamas were against, by the way, the governments that suddenly decided to apply more taxes. And you can see why. But now the modern scholars and ulamas are all about, oh yes, if it is not enough for the government to be dependent on these four different taxes that are mentioned in Islam, then they can add more taxes and all. But at least fine, they do agree on this thing, thankfully, that levies are still haram. Yes, levies, when you add levies, that is still haram. And now we'll move on to part two because we're almost at 30 minutes. It's actually 29 minutes, 8 seconds, going on 9 seconds. Okay, this is me signing out. Until part two for taxes, Khuda Hafiz.